Hey everybody, Adam here with Etrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Lippert Components Flowmax RV Water Pump. Odds are you are replacing the pump, so if you have a 115 volt pump, this one's going to just wire up right next to it. Same size, so it's going to fit, and it's going to push out about 3.3 gallons a minute and has a PSI rating of 45. Our customer was looking for more water pressure, mainly in the shower, but also here just for cleaning dishes and stuff. And we went from a 45 or 40 PSI to a 45, and that's actually better than my house. That will clean some dishes, so that's really good. Definitely an improvement over there. But let's go to the shower. That was the main thing with us replacing this pump. So what I've been doing with all the pumps that we carry here is I just take the shower head off and I put it up right in line with this little tube right here. And before, we weren't even hitting this little window. So if we have an increase in PSI, it should hit it. All right, so we're definitely good there. And there's definitely a little bit more PSI than there was before. So that's always good. A lot of you guys are wondering if this is a self-priming pump. If you're shopping on our website, we only give you the self-priming pumps just because it's the smarter choice. You just buy one that self-primes. You don't have to worry about priming it. You just plug it in, hook it up, make sure there's water in the tank, of course, and it primes on its own once you turn it on. So this is a self-priming pump. If you are shopping for a 115 volt water pump, we have another option, and it is the C-Flow, but they are rated the same, 3.3 gallons per minute, 45 PSI, but this one was a little bit louder, and we did see a little bit more pulsating at this faucet. So if you want to know the difference, if you're shopping around between the two that we have, the C-Flow is going to be louder, more pulsating, and I would definitely go with the Flowmax. Another difference between the C-Flow and the Flowmax, the C-Flow is actually going to have a plug. So if you want to just keep it super simple for you and you don't really mind the extra noise and pulsating, you can grab this, so it's just plug and play. But if you just have hardwires ran, the Flowmax is just going to have these wires coming out. So it all just depends on what you want. But you can convert this into a plug if you want. You just need to buy a plug and then hook it up, and it'll be good to go. And if you did want to go with this, you could cut the wires and then just hardwire it to whatever cables that you have, and it won't void your warranty. If you are pretty much committed to the 115s, those are your two different options. But if you want my opinion, if you're not always going to have shore power and you like to go off-grid, the 12 volts are going to be a lot better for the off-grid, and I've found that they're a little bit quieter. My favorite one is the Series 33 3 gallon per minute Lippert Components Flowmax. That one's the quietest, least amount of pulsating, and it's 12 volt. That's what I'm going to put in my camper, but I'm more of the off-grid guy. So if you're at a campsite and you know you're going to have power majority of the time, then the 115 volt pump is going to last a little bit longer, and it's going to be more fitted for your situation. They all basically install the same, so if you stick around, we're going to show you how we got this guy in there. If you're performing maintenance, maybe just fixing something or just replacing your whole entire water pump, you got to find out where it is. What I found best to do is run it and see if you can hear it. We want to put it a little bit farther away from the kitchen sink because typically it's around that area. So I'm going to go in the bathroom here, turn on the pump, and then run a little bit of water to see. So I don't know if you can hear that, but that is what we really want to kind of figure out exactly where it's at. They're typically near the kitchen, so kind of start there, and you really got to use your ears to really find out where it's at. Usually it's behind a weird hidden little panel. So we were following the sound. We thought it was right next to the hot water heater, but it wasn't. It was actually over here, and again, right next to the sink. So step one, find the pump, check. Before we do the swap, we want to see what we're working with before, just to give us a base to see if we're increasing our pressure. So let me turn this pump on. So let's turn this on. And a decent amount of pressure. It almost goes up to the vent, not really, but not the best. Now for the sinks actually have a decent amount of pressure. Definitely enough to clean some dishes, but the problem really is in the shower. That's what we're really trying to solve here, and that's why we're really replacing this pump. Before we do anything to the pump, we need to cut power. You can do it a bunch of different ways. You can just go and pull a fuse. You can maybe just flip a little breaker on the inside, but what I'm doing, just to make sure everything doesn't have power, just in case, is we do have a battery shut off. So I'm just gonna turn that off, just to make sure that there's no power running that pump whatsoever. To get all the water out of the lines, if you have a valve like this, it's gonna be very, very easy. So all we gotta do with this valve is just kind of turn it like this. It's gonna cut off the water source, and then it's gonna bring it down to this tube, which is just gonna suck in air. But if you don't have one in here, we do have one. So if you are replacing your pump, I highly suggest doing it. But if you don't have one on your pump and you need to take it out right now, just make sure to have a couple little bit of towels and stuff. You'll have a little bit of water trying to come back, but we don't have to worry about that. So now that I turned that valve, it's gonna be taking in air from this tube. So now all we really need to do is turn on the faucet and let it run. And it's gonna take a little bit of time, but you'll see some air pockets start to come through. Pressure is gonna go down. It's gonna start spitting for a while. I'm just gonna let this run for a little bit to get all that air out. And in a little bit, yeah, see all that air. So it's gonna do this for a little bit. Just let it run until basically nothing comes out but air. It's a little tough to see in there. It's kind of a small space, so hopefully we get it for you. But I'm gonna go ahead and just take this thing off the ground. There's just 4 different screws, just so it's gonna be a little bit easier for me to access all the different hoses and such. So it is extremely tight in here, but basically what I'm gonna do over here, this little white, little 90 degree, there's just a little nut on there. I'm just gonna loosen that and that'll come off. And then on this side, I'm gonna loosen this just because our new pump does come with this piece. So I'm gonna disconnect this and that side, and then of course cut the wires. But super, super tight, so I need to get 2 hands in there to do it. And once all of our connections are cut and all the wires are disconnected, this whole thing should come right out. Let's prepare the pump. So we want to take these caps off. The easiest way to do it is just twisting them off, lefty-loosey. You can try to pull them off, it's just a little bit harder because it is threaded on the inside. But once you have this off, you can throw that away. We're not going to use it. We want to do it on both sides. And once you get that off, with any water connection, you do want to get some thread tape. It doesn't come with it, but we do have some here at Etrailer, so just grab yourself a roll. And then we just want to wrap this around. We don't want to put too much on. Just like this. And then we're going to do that for both sides. We're going to try to keep it as tight as possible, but you don't really need to do a whole lot. But once it's on there, kind of push it down just so it seats in there. And do the same thing for this side. Just like that. We do have a lot in here, so you can save this for another time. So what comes with the kit are these 2 pieces here. We're not going to use these, but they'll just screw on just like that. But that all just depends on your situation. We're not going to use them, so we're going to do whatever with those. So then you want to kind of take note of the arrows. So the arrows are pointing this way. So that means the water's coming in here and the outlet is over here. And we want to filter the water before it enters the pump. This does come with it, which is cool. And I just like to put all this on right now just because there's not a whole lot of space down there. So do as much as you can when it's out in the open. So now once we put this valve on the filter side, we're ready to put it in. So down low, if you guys are wondering if it's gonna fit, it's gonna fit. All these pumps are basically the same size, and if they are a little bit bigger of a pump, they all have the same footprint. So we've done every single one on our website, and they all line up with the holes that were drilled in here before, so that's kind of cool. You don't really have to worry about that. Take all of our wires out. There's not a whole lot of room in here, but basically all I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the water inlet. So this is going from our water tank. It's going to go through. I'll connect that, and then over here, that's where it's going out. So I'll just connect those two, and then with these wires, so the yellow green wire, that's going to be your ground, and then you're going to have your hot wire, which is the black wire, and then the white wire is just going to be your neutral. So since you're replacing the pump with a 115, obviously we are going to have these wires. So you can either just hardwire them in, or you can put a plug on the end of this. But if you really do want a plug, we do have one. It's a C-Flow 115 volt that comes with the plug. So just depending on what kind of setup you already have, go ahead and pick the pump that's going to match up with that if you want to. But we can convert this over if you like this pump better than the other one. So I'm going to go ahead and do all this. I do suggest using some heat shrink butt connectors. We're just going to use wire nuts right now just because we're putting a lot of different water pumps in here. And I'm going to do all this off camera just because we both can't fit in there. So that's what I'm going to do. Here's what it looks like installed. Everything is good and connected up. The only thing I need to do is just turn this valve to where the water is actually going to go through, because it's a water pump, not an air pump. And one thing I did notice, I really like how this mounting has a little bit of play. So I really like that. It's hopefully going to be kind of quiet. Now that we are good, we can go ahead and flip the switch and give everything power again. So the power's back on, but I have one more switch to power on the pump. There we go. So it is a self-priming pump, so that's nice. So we're just gonna kind of let it run, and we just need to get some of the air out of the lines. And it is kind of quiet, so that's kind of good. So let's get this air out. Scratch that. It's a little bit louder than I expected, but the air's out of that line. So now let's go back to the bathroom. Take care of this faucet back here. There's going to be a decent amount of air in this line. Cool. And onto the shower. You just want to do this for all the different water. Oop, I don't want to get wet. Water spots you have. And we are good to go. So now that that's all done, there's no leaks, everything's working, the air's out of the lines, and that's pretty much it for a look at the Flowmax RV water pump.